please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
50 it is. That's where it starts, 20 points higher.
The index taking out 10,600, which is very near, would be the ending of this kind of correction.
Biggest expense had is the content cost. So there we had been successful in bringing some synergy.
On the street, people are very much expecting to see a 66 rupees to a dollar shortly.
The market is not doing very much at all. It's been that way since the morning. It's hardly changed. I mean, 3-point change. 10,525 is what we've got.
It's been a good day today. Let's just recap the day then. 10,550 is where the Nifty is ending. That's a bit of a resistance, but let's see if that can be crossed.
Volatile day of trade on Dalal Street. Markets gain for the 9th straight day. The best winning streak in well over 3 years. Nifty ends just shy of 10,550, while the Sensex gains 90 points.
The rupee falls to a fresh 7-month low due to a cocktail of concerns. Dollar buying by public sector banks, rising trade deficit and higher crude oil prices play spoil sport.
Consumption was the theme of the day. FMCG stocks outperform. The Nifty FMCG index ends 1% in the green, led by ITC, Jubilant Food and Emami.
Hotel stocks rally in trade. Taj GVK Hotels, Orient Hotels and Kamath Hotels all see between 10 and 20% gains in trade.
And jewelry stocks rise a day ahead of Akshay Tritiya. Titan and PC Jewelers end the day close to 2% in the green. Those were the top 5 headlines from what was a choppy day of trading today. Hello and welcome to Markets Today Talkback, the show where we tell you all about 8 hours of trading in just 5 headlines. I'm Lata Venkatesh. With me, my colleague Prashant Nair. Hi, Prashant.
Hi, Lata. Off the lows, definitely, but not very much by 3:30 today. And as Lata pointed out, over the next 30 minutes, we will wrap up the day's action in about 5 stories. Our experts will answer your questions. Joining us today to help us do that are IIFL Sanjeev Bhasin. On the charts, we have Mitesh Thakkar. Gentlemen, thanks very much, both of you, for being with us here today. Let's take stock of what happened. I mean, how we started, the cues we followed, and how we finally ended. Lata.
Well, as we've been saying from the headlines itself, it was a ranged day and choppy, if you please, going several times into red and green. And it was just 0.25% on either sides. So it's all of 50 points that the index moved 10,503 to 10,555. That was broadly the range in which the indices stayed. There were globally actually pretty positive cues. There was Chinese GDP, which was better than expected. 6.7 was the expectation, Reuters poll, and the actual number came out at 6.8. European earnings, so the second half of the day should have been buoyed up by Europe doing well because of earnings over there. But we did neither. The big thing was that after 8 consecutive days of gains, we didn't lose ground. That appeared to be the minor victory, and this was, as you pointed out in the headlines, led largely by consumption stocks. Yesterday, it rained good news after the markets closed, with the Met saying that we will receive normal rainfall. One would have thought that all agri stocks, NBFCs, which serve the rural sector, tractor stocks, and of course fertilizer, agrochemicals and consumption stocks will do well. All the above did not, at least were not in the news, but consumption stocks certainly did well. Most other sectors struggled. Anything more granular? So,
I mean, FMCG, of course, consumption, top of the list. Real estate, well, you can call it consumption. Energy stocks also held their ground. Public sector banks, pharma and IT. I mean, rupee was weak, but pharma and IT continued there. Continue to be under pressure. I mean, a sector like IT has done quite well already so far this year. So I guess there was profit booking. The large stocks which did well, power stocks. So Power Grid, I mean, NTPC were 2 names which stood out. Lever, consumption, ICICI Bank was higher. You had something like a Bharti and Lupin, which were up as well. Stocks which lost, Axis Bank, there was Bharti Infratel, and there was Wipro, which were some of the top large cap losers. Big gains in the entire, I mean, hotel pack. And these are what, 7 or 8 names. Indian hotels, we've got Taj GVK, EIH Associated, Orient Hotels, Kamath Hotels, Viceroy, Advani. I mean, you know, across the board, and these are big 10, 15, The market capitalization on an average, Indian Hotels is clearly the largest one, but otherwise they're small companies in that sense. Asset base might be large, but the market has not really appreciated these names last couple of years, except maybe I think, one or two names which have done well recently, but otherwise over the last 4 or 5 years have not done well, but they're back in action. We'll discuss that in a bit. But losers, KEI, huge outperformer last 2 years. Jagran Prakasham was down 6.5%, and there was something like a Talwarkar which was lower. Quality, Dixon, a fairly recent listing, and an HEG were some of the other losers. Lata.
Oh, right. Well, just wanted to add to the points that you made. We did have, kind of a random set of stocks. There were some private banks and some public sector banks doing well, and some public sector and some private. Up and down, I mean. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Not really following a pattern today. Power stocks, I just wanted to make a point. We had a discussion earlier today with some bankers and infrastructure experts, genuinely worried about what happens when over 2,000 crore loans that are stressed are brought to the NCLT. Who will buy them? And the general suggestion was that there should be a public sector government-backed consortium which buys these very valuable assets. So maybe we should put Power Grid and NTPC as likely candidates for some such a move. They were the stocks that did well. So let's get from our experts.
My theory, though, there's the big Semcorp IPO which is coming, Lata. So there's a fair bit of discussion happening and brokers pushing power as a theme now. So I mean, yeah, could be.
But the power generators did badly today, but the power PSUs did well. Let's ask our guests what they have made of the market's moves. First, Sanjeev, do you think Power Grid and NTPC are worth buying?
So, Lata, I think they have been outperforming in the power space, and purely on the back that NTPC today, it has free cash reserves of 10,000 crore, and it seems to be the best proxy to buy those stressed assets if there is a SUTI type, vehicle setup. Also, distribution is in a fine fettle as merchant power rates are higher, and assuming some of that part of their excess power gets sold of that, I think numbers would be in line. Power Grid is anyway been an outperformer on the distribution side, and I think as you suggested, if there is going to be some sort of a vehicle setup to buy some of the stressed assets, then these two are cash-rich companies which can be very, very good conduits to buy that, which releasing the stress for the next 6 to 9 months or maybe a year, where these investments can turn out to be very positive.
Okay. Well, Mitesh, wanted to come to you first. What's the next trade on the Nifty?
So, Lata, I think the bigger trade will come if we start to get past 10,600, 620 zone. If you recall, if you rewind a month and a half back, in February, I think whenever we had a market bounce back or a pullback on 2-3 day basis, I think couple of those rallies ended around the 10,610, 620 mark. So getting past that would be important. Also is the fact that last 8-9 days we've been moving higher. We are quite overbought on the hourly chart. So I think closer to 10,600, I'm expecting some kind of supply to emerge, some strong profit booking to happen, and then a consolidation maybe. So maybe as we approach the April expiry, we should then again pick up steam and try to break on the upside.
Okay, so that sets us up for the day in terms of markets. Let's move on to the second story of the day. That's the rupee. The currency extended its losses today, hitting a fresh 7-month low. There, of course, are a cocktail of reasons, issues which are hurting the rupee. And let's discuss some of these, because this will have an implication, a signaling effect for stock markets as well. Lata.
Well, actually, sentiment was in favor of the rupee up until the last 3-4 years. Since the taper tantrum and all the measures put in, people were actually long rupee most of the time and short dollar, even in the NDF market. But that sentiment definitely took a beating because of the two recent events. The continued rise in crude prices above the $70 mark, and that Friday night shocker from the trade deficit. So that kept rupee, traders unwinding their short dollar positions or covering their short dollar positions was a trend you could see. And the Syrian attack only added to this generally in the EM currency space. Those currencies with higher current account deficits or even more short covering. You know, April is also traditionally a period of lower dollar supplies and higher dollar demand. March is the time when exporters want to finish their contracts, or IT companies are bringing back their cash. We normally see current account surpluses only in this quarter, Jan-March, or more particularly in the month of March. So anyway, April, we were heading for a bit of a dollar crunch. That appears to have gotten exacerbated by this one trend of dollar buying by PSU banks, not today, but over the last 2 or 3 days. They appear to have bought about $2 or $3 billion, probably for some large government transaction, either for a large PSU or a semi-government, maybe a defense transaction. But people noted that PSU banks were buying. So that also created that gap which had to be filled. And now people, with the continued rise in oil prices and the struggle in exports that you are seeing, the expectation is that 66 is around the corner.
I mean, maybe we can put this to Mitesh. Do you track the rupee on charts? I mean, is it a breakout for the dollar rupee even from here?
Yes. Yes, I think in the short-term charts, I think I would agree with Lata. I think, you know, I am looking at targets close to about 66.25, 66.20 on the upside, which could take a couple of weeks to come by. But I think, yes, there's some kind of a short-term change or drift on the upside which has happened.
Okay. Well, that's as far as the rupee were concerned. With that, let's move on to the third headline for the day. The third headline.
Consumption.
Okay.
So another pack today which helped the market were FMCG stocks. Nifty FMCG index gained 1% in today's trade. HUL was a big contributor. We, of course, highlighted the HUL stock and how it moved earlier. It hit a new record high. The stock is up 75%, by the way, since the start of 2017. Other FMCG stocks like ITC, Jubilant Food and Imami also ended the day higher. Let's listen to two experts who we spoke with on this theme earlier. Porunju Veliath, he was in our studios. Atul Suri was in our studios too. And both of them betting big on consumption stocks. I mean, various themes, but consumption, the underlying idea. Listen in.
One safe way to play the equity today in India is really the consumption story. Within the consumption space, you know, how can you make 15-20% CAGR in a safe way? So from that point of view, I see a lot of stocks and sub-segments within the consumption story in India. See, that is the only way you can bet.
Leadership is emerging in the market. It's a new sector. There are stocks who are very strong, but yet people will not buy them because one is they've run up too much or the valuations are too high. And I also feel that the coming quarterly numbers, you will have positive surprises, which will sort of, you know, add to this universe. So I personally think I really like the kind of fall that was. Jan was a difficult month. Feb was a difficult month. But you're already seeing that in this month, relative to the index, stocks and portfolios are doing much, much better.
All right. With that, let's invite our viewers to ask their questions. We've got a question from Vikash Singh from Gujarat, but he has SMS'd the query to us. He has 200 shares of Tata Global Beverages bought at 310 rupees. He has been holding the stock for the past 3 months. He is a medium-term investor. He says, I don't know what that means in terms of time, but what should he do? Mitesh, what are the charts saying? Medium-term, let's take 1 year.
Yeah, so Lata, I think, you know, unfortunately he bought it after a good run-up, though the stock did make a higher high. But I think the stock has now in the last 2.5-3 months gone through correction, consolidated. I think 255, 260 was the lower end of the correction. That's completed. I'm now waiting for the stock to get past levels of around 285, and we are very close to that. Once that happens, I think the short-term and the medium-term trend will change on the upside, and then we can look at targets close to about 350 to about 360 in the matter of about 3 to 4 months. So I think he should clearly hold on in case he can add more at around lower levels if he gets it. I think it's definitely an add. I think 255, 250 should be the bottom in the short to medium term.
Okay, 330 odd was the all-time high and looks good. I mean, essentially is what Mitesh is saying. We got another question. This is on ITC. Krunal Patel has got a question on ITC. Sent us an SMS. He has 252 shares of the company. He hasn't mentioned what he bought the stock at, but he's been holding the stock now for the last 2 years or so. Wants to know if he should continue holding or sell. ITC, Sanjeev, your sense?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer. ITC is one of them. It has been a relative underperformer, but in the fall it didn't even make new lows. So it's a relative outperforming stock. All the businesses are doing extremely well, whether it's paper or milk or dairy or you know, the hotel business, the apparel business. I can go on, and cigarettes to top it. So I think ITC is extremely attractive at this price. I would say 320 would be the target by the year end, and I would look for more. So I think ITC is definitely on top of my list as one of the top performers for 2018.
Okay, gentlemen, do stay on. We have to take a break, but there are lots more questions coming your way. While we go into that break, let's leave you with opinion on something we always want to know about: crude prices and where they are headed.
There will not be disruptions of the United States oil and gas fields that potentially could occur, as we see in some of the areas of the Middle East and other places around the world. So the stability of that supply chain, I think, is really important.
I guess the biggest dark cloud for India is crude. If I say that crude will go to 90, people just laugh. People were laughing when I would say 70 6 months ago. So the fact is that crude, which is a very important element in the Indian economy because of the level of imports, is on a very, very bullish trajectory.
Welcome back. You're with us here on Markets Today Talk Back. We've been answering your questions and, of course, running you through what happened in today's session in those 5 stories. Mitesh Thakkar and Sanjeev Bhasin have been answering your questions, and they're with us to get us through the rest of the show. Well, we got through 3 of the top stories. This is the 4th one then. Hotel stocks had a very good run in trade today. Stocks were up between 10 and 20%. The likes of Taj GVK Hotels, Orient Hotels, Kamath Hotels were all higher and how, and large volumes on these stocks today as well. I mean, we've got questions coming in on some of these names. So the first one is Chandrasekhar Iyer, who's got 200 shares of Indian Hotels, bought at 144 rupees each. He wants to know if he should hold or sell. Sanjeev, I mean, if you could answer the question and begin by any thoughts you may have as to why this entire sector is on fire.
Yeah, so, recently we've seen average room rates pick up. I think it's a very good season. Secondly, just to name Indian Hotel, it has been transcripting a new business model with the Vivanta chain, up and running, and that has made it much more affordable for the middle class. So that has been the real, icing on the cake, and I see no let up in that. I think hotel stocks were, relatively very, very cheap and neglected, and now they are suddenly seeing a huge amount of interest because the future seems very bright, particularly to take the name of Indian Hotel. We think any decline will be a buying opportunity. The investor who has it, please hold it. 175 would be a near-term target, but I don't rule out a target of 200 in the next 1 year on Indian Hotels.
Okay, the gentleman is in the money, but he can make more money. Okay, I'm coming to Mitesh on Indian Hotels, but let me combine it with this other question that we are getting from a viewer, R.S. Gupta. He has texted to us that he has 311 shares of Hotel Leela Ventures. Okay, that is at what, 20 rupees now. And okay, he's bought it at 20 rupees per share. He has been holding them for 1.5 years and is a long-term investor. Not made any money now, sitting exactly at 21 rupees to be precise. 311 shares. So first, technical view, both Indian Hotels and Hotel Leela. Mitesh?
Yeah. So I think, Lata, Hotel Leela, if you look at the last few years of chart, has done nothing but a range of about 15 to roughly about 27, 28. And there's a mild pivot at about 23. There's a chance that it might go up to about the upper end of the range, roughly around 28 and thereabouts. And beyond that, if the breakout happens, which I don't have signals for now, I think then we might see a higher level. But I would agree with Sanjeev. I think Indian Hotel is the one which clearly looks more interesting. The long-term charts are extremely, extremely positive, and I think 175, what Sanjeev has suggested, is what I would possibly put as a conservative target on the charts, on the longer-term charts. So I would be quite positive over there. In fact, I would even suggest the gentleman, if he can shift from Hotel Leela to Indian Hotels, it might make more sense. 175 should be the first target, 200 is very likely. So that should give him roughly about 40% kind of return in less than about 12 months is what my target is.
Lata, since we sort of compare everything in India to China, I mean, how many ACs sold here compared to how many sold in China, how many odd two-wheelers, etc. In terms of hotel rooms, and it's interesting, we've got about 2 lakh hotel rooms in India. China, it's 20 lakhs.
Oh.
In the US, it is 50 lakhs. So, I mean, just to put it
some
on
comparison. And India, US population is 1/5 of India's.
300 million or something.
And then they have about 5 times the number of hotels. So that's an explanation of how many people travel in the United States. Okay, with that pleasant thought of holidaying in hotels, the final headline of the day. 1 day to go for Akshaya Tritiya and jewelry stocks are buzzing. Glittering is the word. Titan and PC Jewelers both saw their shares go up by more than 1.5 percentage points. That's the price for you. Titan falling short of 1,000 by just a smidge. It's a 4-digit stock now. So on that, more questions. Nishant Shah is calling us from Mumbai with a question on Titan. Go ahead, Nishant ji, your question.
Yeah, ma'am. Good evening. Regarding Titan, I want to know, I've purchased at the rate of 480 50 shares. Should I hold it for a longer period?
Well, it's better than gold for you, but let me toss it to Sanjeev. Sanjeev, what should he do?
Well, firstly, congratulations. You bought it at 480 and it's doubled. And I see no let up. I think this whole embroglio of Geetanjali and Nirav Modi are only making everyone buy Titan. It's an outperformer as far as the mutual fund industry, as far as the foreign investors, and locally also it's seeing a lot of traction. So no letting up. I think 4 figures is going to be here and way beyond. I think 1150 could be the near-term target. In the immediate time, I think it's very heavily overbought and over emphasized. But it's a very good long-term story, so stay put.
Okay, and Mitesh?
Okay, all right. Mitesh, Titan, sorry.
Very similar views. I think extremely overbought in the short to medium-term charts, but the longer-term charts show multiple, signals of strength. So I would say hold on. I think it might go through consolidation for next few months after hitting the 4-figure mark, and it's already done that nearly. And you might have to see a few months of sideways activity, but overall I think this should keep making newer highs if you give it about 3 to 4 quarters of time.
The next question is the exact opposite maybe of Titan, the other extreme. So this is Shiraz Pavaskar, who's got a question on Geetanjali Gems. He has 2,000 shares of Geetanjali bought at 55 rupees.
My God.
Share, my God. The stock's right now at some 4-5 rupees. He wants a short-term target of the stock. I mean, looking at the chart, it's been one way from the 15th of February 2018. I mean, every day, just lower and lower. But I don't think it's on, is it down on a circuit every day? I don't think so. So maybe there's an opportunity to still get out. It's not as if you are stuck and there's no way to sell. But what would you tell him, Sanjeev?
So unfortunately, it's like catching a falling knife and you got lured by the price irrespective of the negative news flow. I would still suggest please get out. To buy an ITC on my saying, I think you'll make up your loss over the next 2 years. ITC is a brilliant stock and I think it's underrated. I think the business is doing brilliantly. So I assure you in the next 2 years ITC will make up your losses. But please, for heaven's sake, get out of this stock.
So I don't think there's much left. He has lost all his 2,000 into 50, 20 lakh rupees is practically lost. Nothing much to be retrieved over there. But on that somber note, let us just wish all of you a very happy Akshaya Tritiya. Mitesh and Sanjeev, thank you very much for joining us and hope we have a golden Wednesday as well on Akshaya Tritiya Day. Do join us when we talk markets tomorrow morning starting 8 a.m.